I'm a little stuck on what to do with him. I'm not sure if these are things that you walk away from the person for, or if these are the type of things you work on in relationships.
Okay. So in this, being someone who's dating right now, you're in the early stages relatively of the dynamic, you know? So with that said, you're just kind of sifting and sorting. What do you like? What do you don't like? And what are your preferentials? And this is the thing. It's not a matter of does this need to be worked on? If you can look at this person as they stand in the here and now and be like, wow, I really enjoy you and I really like the way that I feel when I'm around you. And in this moment, I can love you just the way you are, then yeah, hang out in this space. But if there is an inclination, because we have a tendency, most humans, where we cherry pick the things that we like about people and then we make a laundry list about things that we want them to change. And then we stay in the relationship in the hopes that they will change certain things, or we will start to develop a love affair with their potential. And so it's really important to be cognizant of that as you sort of hang out here, because if anything, I would totally agree with you. You got really, really clear on what works for you and what doesn't, you know, and this might not happen in the immediate where you're like, all right, I'm going to, off with him and you're on to the next. You might find that you want to hang out here a little bit and milk some of the pieces that you do enjoy and see if this ultimately is something that you can play in and you can still achieve satisfaction from, while perhaps getting some of those other needs met elsewhere. So I dated somebody last year, Ruby knew about this, and he was actually wonderful. He was wonderful in so many ways. Like he checked a lot of boxes, but he wasn't very conversive. He wasn't very intellectually stimulating. And I could be in that space for hours, somebody. And for me, that's a very, very salient aspect of my intimacy. Not everybody's like that, but for me, that's probably one of the top 3 ways that I experience intimacy with somebody is through deep conversation. And he couldn't go there with me for extended periods of time, if not at all. And I floated in that space because there were so many other places I did enjoy about the relationship, but it did get to a point where I no longer could achieve satisfaction because it came to a halt in terms of our ability to deepen the dynamic. It took me a few months to get there. So that's just something to consider. And again, it's about how you feel, right? You just want to be cognizant that as you pick out these pieces, this doesn't become the lens in which you see him through either. If you do decide to stay together, like I'm going to stay with him, but it really annoys me that he does this, or am I going to constantly focus on the fact that he doesn't talk that much? Or am I going to constantly focus on his, substance use patterns or whatever? So if you're able to still do props with him like you would with anybody else who you're meeting and initializing friendship and connection with, then I would say stay with it, play in there, use it as a training ground at a very minimum, right? But this gives you an opportunity to really figure out what ultimately serves your highest frequency, or is this just another person who's helping you to even more so define your deeper desires, because that's oftentimes what's showing up.
I want you to take a moment and put it outside of partner realm and put it into friendship realm, because it might be a little bit easier to think about in that place. I am not a big drinker. I haven't been for much of my life. I did have my spell, and I don't actually enjoy being around people who drink a lot, even if it's like just X amount every day, every single day. It's not something I enjoy. It's not something I love. And so friendships that are involved with someone who drinks a lot, like I don't choose to hang out with that person a lot because it doesn't feel good to me. It doesn't resonate with me. I can still love them and appreciate them, but they're not a close friend. They're not an inner circle. And that's part of what works for me in the bigger picture scheme of things. So when we look at it as a friend versus a potential relationship or a longtime lover, or like, is this a person, like, would that work in a friendship with you? Because then if it would work in a friendship, maybe there's some room to play. There's some wiggle room with this. Maybe it's like, oh, what I notice is I can be around people drinking all day, every day and not drink. And I feel great. And that's fine with me. So if someone wants to drink, all good for them. I can still be with them and not be drinking and feel really good. Right. So it's really this is like asking you to look a little bit deeper at what these things mean. When you say like, I notice Someone being able to talk and have conversations with someone is really important. I'm only there for the connection. And for me, that happens through talking. So if your primary way to connect with someone is through talking, and that person's primarily way to connect is through silence, you will miss every single time. And that's going to leave you wanting more, right? Wanting more from that person. And that's going to leave them wanting less, right? So it's going to create this constant push-pull dynamic. So if in a different sense, you were like, I really, really love talking and communicating, but it's not my primary love language. So I don't need it from my person, right? I can get it from a friend, I can get it from there, but in my relationship, I can be really good with just spending quality time together, watching a movie, being silent, hanging out, having coffee, and not saying anything. Then sure, great. But what I'm hearing you say is this is the primary way I connect. And if that is always missing in a relationship, that is a huge hole. It is a huge, gigantic hole. If you think about it from a kid's perspective, if as a child, your primary way to connect was communication and you didn't get that, you're going to be working that out most of your adult life. That's part of how it works, because that's how we receive connection, some of us. So it's really important, as Star said, to look at this a little bit deeper, and also to start to take some of the pressure off and just be like, oh, I do like this. This is what feels good. Great. So let's lean into what feels good.